Happy New Year, my cactus friends. It's Jenny from Cookies Cacti. I can't believe it, but I felt like I was filming about my seedlings only, last week? But can you believe it or not? These guys that I featured in my How to Sow Cactus from Seeds video are already 5 weeks old, which is kind of horrifying. That time is passing so fast. Today is January 2nd, 2023. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Today is my last day of winter break from work, so tomorrow I'm back in the office, back at the normal routine. But I wanted to give you an update on those cactus seedlings that I featured in my How to Sow Cactus from Seed. It's been 5 weeks and there are some problems showing up and I wanted to show you. So on top of these clear domes, which I'll make a link in the description below on where these domes came from, they're all from Greenhouse Megastore. But they do have these, what would you say, these openings at the top that you can slide open and close. So I had these closed when I first sowed these seeds to maintain that high humidity environment. But there are some problems starting to show up, and let me show you. So I have 2 trays. This is the one where 6 of the pots were sown in that video, and the rest are older seedlings. They were sown in like mid-September or so. And then this tray was completely sowed from scratch from that video from 5 weeks ago. So let me show you some of the problems. I'm going to go ahead and take off the covers. So I often get the question about, after sowing the seeds and leaving them in that high humidity environment, at what point do you take the dome off? Or at what point do you start introducing the seedlings to regular air and start acclimating them into regular humidity? And that's a very difficult question to answer, and I've mentioned that in my previous video because it depends. You know, for me, I'm still relatively new to growing cactus from seed, so I don't have like a set procedure that works every time and is fail-proof. You know, I'm still figuring things out myself. One of the factors that determines when to start to expose these seedlings to regular air is problems like the following. Now first, you can see that there's some green algae. Here's one that's really obvious, developing. It's almost unavoidable in my experience. There's like nothing I can do to avoid that green algae. It just shows up, and I don't actually think it hurts the seedlings. It just looks unsightly, so I don't actually care about it too much. I think the only thing is if you start seeing that green algae growing over the seedlings, then maybe that would be a problem. But so far, I don't think the green algae really does much. The other thing that does show up is this white fuzzy mold. Here's a really good example of it. You see that white fuzzy mold that's developing? This is almost an inevitable thing that shows up for me too. Let me show you another example. You can see it. See it down there. It's really bad. The problem is when the white mold starts to, I can't even tell you if it's the white mold killing the seedlings or not, but let me show you like this pot of Ariocarpus retusus back here. You see those fluffs of mold? It's very possible that those spots of mold actually have seedlings that died underneath it, and then the mold just takes over. So for me, I'm still trying some things like when this mold shows up, I've been trying a systemic fungicide. Let me grab the bottle. I've been trying this Physan 20, which I bought off of Amazon. It was recommended to me by one of my cactus friends on Instagram, so I've been trying this out. Essentially, I mix it into a spray bottle. So this spray bottle is 32 ounces, which is a 1/4 gallon. And that friend was recommending that I do 10 milliliters per gallon. So for a 1/4 gallon, I'm doing 2.5 milliliters, which I believe is half a teaspoon. So I mix half a teaspoon of this with just tap water in a spray bottle. And I've been just spraying these pots with mold in them with the systemic fungicide. And does it work? I can't really tell you yet. I think it probably helps, but it doesn't get rid of it entirely, and I don't know if I'm doing it right either. But here, I'll go ahead and spray this, for example. But there's many different types of fungicide out there. I've heard of people recommending Monterey and then so many different other ones. But here's a tray. You know, this is my tray of the, gosh, at this point I think they're 3 months or 3-month-old Copiapoa. And you can see here, you see that seedling right there is rotted. And there are other examples. Here's another one right there, rotted. Then there's some, like, you see at the base of those seedlings, there's like some orange stuff showing up, which I don't know if it's rust or not. This is not the first time that I've seen this happen. I had a whole pot of Ariocarpus lophophoroides that had that orange stuff show up, and they showed up like at the base of the plant. Let's see what other issues are in here. There's some mold over there. Take a look at these. So again, these are these front 4 pots, and these 2 on the left here are the 5-week-old seedlings. Kind of mixed results, as you can tell. These are the 3.5-month-old now. So let's look at the rest of the 5-week-olds. These are those Ariocarpus from Rob Romero. You can see mold showing up. The rest of these look okay. Some malaria. These are all Copiapoa here. Those look fine. A little bit of mold there. These are all Copiapoa. See, I'm not seeing any issues like in these pots, for example. That's Copiapoa. Copiapoa. Here we go with the Ariocarpus. I'm seeing a lot more problems. Seeing more mold show up. And let's see, you can see like that one right in the center of the screen is rotting. And again, that was the pot I showed earlier with the little tufts of mold. Those are all probably rotting seedlings underneath that mold. So I'm going to go ahead and spray those down with the Physan 20, all the ones with mold in them. And I'll probably just go ahead and spray all of the pots with the systemic fungicide. I have tried the more natural remedies like cinnamon. It didn't work for me. I tried, I think, hydrogen peroxide too. That didn't work for me. So I've just been trying the systemic. I don't find that the systemic hurts the plants so far, Physan. It seems to not hurt the plants at all. It won't get rid of the green algae though. That I can almost say for sure. At this point, I feel like these 3.5-month-olds can definitely be acclimated to open air. And in the past, I have opened up the lids for Copiapoa seedlings relatively early, like at 1 to 2 months, and they were fine. And then as for the 5-week-olds, because I am seeing mold show up, and I think it should be okay. They're already over a month old. I'm starting to open up that dial at the top of the lid and just slowly acclimating. And then what I'll do is I'll put these clips on the tray here and kind of rest the lid on top of that clip. So the lid is basically has a crack that's open. And that's how I kind of acclimate them. I'll show you an example here. I could put these clips on here on the tray, and then the lip of the lid is sitting on that clip so that the lid, there's a gap between the tray and the lid. And so you can see there is no condensation on the inside of this lid. So I'm going to be just slowly acclimating them. I don't really have a set schedule, but I do want to stop the seedlings from rotting like that. So it is time. So you can see here, it's a mix. I've got 3.5-month-olds that I'm starting to acclimate to air, regular air, and I have 5-week-olds. So when to open that lid, it's all over the place. As long as they're not showing any problems, you can probably keep them covered for quite some time. But if they start to show problems, then you might want to consider giving them some air. I especially, maybe not even when mold shows up. Mold by itself might be okay. I can try to control with the fungicide. But when they start to rot off, that's when it really gives me that sign of, okay, it probably is time to give them some fresh air and help them dry out a bit and see if I can control the rotting. Let me go ahead and put the lid back on. Alright, so I've got the lids back on, and you can see that these dials can be open all the way like this, and there's 2 of them per lid. So on the tray with the older seedlings, I've got it open all the way. For the tray with the younger seedlings, got it open about a quarter. And it's just kind of winging it. I don't have a set time on when I start to open it up completely. But you'll know if it's still high humidity under these domes by whether there's condensation inside the lid or not. So at some point it's going to completely dry out. Alright everybody, I hope you had a wonderful new year. Hoping to bring more content in 2023. Luckily, because these plants are alive and growing, there should always be something to update. But I look forward to making more videos for you all. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful start to your new year. And I will talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.